So, now we are going into the most important topic, and where you will be concentrating on so much, and where you will be doing a lot of configurations. So once it is done, so based on the last presentation and based on this current one, and we will be doing all the configurations in the system. So, but why I am going to give this presentation, because this is the most important topic, where you are going to configure, and by this presentation you will have a complete picture about your employee central module. What is the total architecture of your employee central? But whatever we have seen till yesterday and the presentation, it's all about the concepts that you're going to deal. But before that, very important topic is about the architecture of employee central. So that's what I'm going to explain now. So today I'm going to explain about architecture of the employee central data framework. Okay, the total your employee central module is here in this particular architecture. What is the architecture of your employee central? So it's the most important thing, and this gives a completeness about the module of the employee central. So now let us see about the architecture of employee central. Okay, so the architecture of employee central consisting of the four different objects. Okay, the architecture of employee central is consisting of four different objects. What are they? The first one is foundation objects. The second one is generic objects. Third one is person objects, and the fourth one is employment objects. In the first one you see, if you have, for example, go for SAP HR module. There we have a different types of structures, like enterprise structure, personal structure, like organizational structure, or something like you also have what we call uh, pay scale structure, wage type structure. So the total these five structures are nothing but your total SAP HR module, where you are going to configure and maintain all those structures, the business processes of your SAP HR module. In the same way, here also we have the objects. It's nothing but the architecture of your employee central module. What are those? Is foundation objects, generic objects, person objects, and employment objects. So these are the different objects we have in employee central architecture, and this is the totality of your employee central module. And now let us see all these in detail about each foundation, each objects that we have here in detail in the coming presentations. Let us see all that. First, let us concentrate on foundation objects. What exactly the foundation objects or foundational objects? You can call both of them are same. The foundational objects, it defines about the data of your company. Like you have, for example, in SAP HR organization structure, like you have an enterprise structure, or something like you have personal structure. Here we call those structures here as foundational objects. The foundational objects are nothing but the data which relates completely with your company. It's not employee specific, it is a company specific data. Something like department, division, location, job classification, job functions, cost centers, and etc. Those are the things we will be seeing here in the foundational objects. And again, these foundational objects are also segregated into again three structures. Okay, the foundational objects are again segregated into three structures, like organizational structure, like pay structures, and job structures. These are the three different structures are there in the foundational objects. So now we will be concentrating on each of these structures, like organizational and pay and job structures. Now what kind of objects are there in the each of these structures which comes from the foundational objects? Now let us see all those. So first let me explain organizational structure. The organizational structures are nothing but the building blocks. The same way in SAP HCM in organizational management, we have some building blocks like org unit, job, position, person, and cost center, SPOC. We call it as a SPOC. In the same way here also we have the standard, a predefined, okay, building blocks in the organizational structure. What are those? Legal entity, business unit, location group, location, geo zone, division, department, cost center. So these are something like, the 8 building blocks are there in this particular organizational structure, or 8 building blocks. Even you can also customize, you can also create a custom organization structure to suit your company needs. For example, what exactly it is saying, a division can have one more division, a department can have one more department, a business unit can have a department can have a division can have one more division. So based on that hierarchy, I'm going to show you the structure of your organization structure, how it is going to look like. Okay, the organization structure is something like in success factors, which has a different approach than the SAP. In addition to having a more granular and configurable structure, it also incorporates something like company, a core, or a legal entity into a structure. In SAP, the company code is a part of the enterprise structure and is assigned directly to the employees in input type 1. But here there are concepts of the employee group, pay structure, pay scale structure, and cost center, hierarchy, and employee center. But in employee central, there is no concept of personal structure. Remember it. Here in employee central, there is no concept of the personal structure. What exactly the personal structure, like employee group and employee subgroup? But here we have a different approach than our SAP module, because we have the payroll accounting area, but we call it as a pay group. But that doesn't come here in this. So that is where directly no, there is no concept of a personal structure. Now let us see here. Okay, now let us see in detail with regarding all these topics very clear. Okay, now let me explain comparing between the employee central terminology with the description with the SAP HCM. Okay, how we can compare the topics that we have there and here. First let us see here, for example, foundational objects. The foundational objects are primary objects, primary data that will be used in employees' records. What is that primary data? Your company, job classification, pay grades, and etc. But in SAP HCM, we also have like objects where in OM module, and the master data that you maintain for employee specific and everything. So it is comparing between both the objects, both the systems, employee center and SAP HCM knowledge. Now let me explain about associations that we call here in Employee Central, and the same concept also is there in SAP HR, that we call it as a relationships. In SAP HCM, while you are trying to create objects, you are going to show the relationship between from one object to another object, who is reporting to whom. In the same way, here we also have the same concept of associations. The objects are connected, objects are linked, or objects are associated from one object to another object, like division to department, department to department, legal entity to the business unit to. So a kind of relationship must be shown, that we call here as associations. And we have the object type again we have, and here also employee central we have a generic objects. So the generic objects we call it as a custom objects. These custom objects are created with a tool called metadata framework, MTF framework. So these also we are going to concentrate how we can create a custom objects directly within the existing system UI, user interface instance itself. Directly you can create your own custom object. Custom objects is nothing but generic objects can be directly created in the metadata framework tool. This is also a separate module. So that we will also concentrate how we can handle the customer requirement for different configurations even in the absence of XML coding. For metadata framework, it doesn't require any kind of XML coding. It doesn't require. So even in the absence of XML coding, the same configurations that can be configured in XML can also be fulfilled directly in the metadata framework within your instance system itself. It's very interesting and very, very good module, very simple and easy, but very interesting. So that you can see the output very easily. Those objects we call it as a generic object. Of course, that I have added here separate because I want to make it clear because what exactly the generic objects and all. Next, you have organizational structure. The organization structure is used to manage the enterprise, that your organization. That's what we are just seeing, the organization structure objects. That organization structure like company, legal entity, business unit, and everything. What exactly the organization? It represents your organization. It shows the hierarchy. What object is related? How an objects are associated from legal entity to the business unit, and business unit to the department, department to the divisions, and division to the division, something like that. And you also have an additional topic. It's a very important topic called propagation. The same concept we also have, that we propagations are like defaulting the values. When you're trying to enter a particular field with a particular specific information, automatically the data has to be reflected or propagated. The same concept also we have in SAP HR, that we do a defaulting with the help of the features through a transaction code called PH03. So these are something I want to show very clarity in with regarding the understanding of the both the systems and the business processes, that how we handle here and how we configure and handle in SAP on-premises system. Now let us see the another topic, that which shows the hierarchy. See, the legal entity is one of the organization structure building block, and a business unit. A legal entity is again showing the business unit, and business unit is having a division. A division is having again one more department. A division can have one more division. A division can have another department. Even department can also have another department. Now you can look at this particular screenshot. It makes you a complete picture of your organizational structure, or nothing but a building blocks. Then later on, rest of other things like location, location group, geo zone, rest of other things comes. But these are the main objects. And one more important thing, it doesn't mean that you have to create your company requirement based on the first legal entity or something like business unit department. No, even without a business unit also can create division, not an issue. So we will see all these, how we can configure, handle all these requirements within your system. And what we call in SAP HR the legal entity, we call there as a company code, but here we call it as a legal entity. And we are having again business unit, and where we have again something. Business unit can be anything. It can be something you can consider it as a legal entity, or something like it. You can also call it as a business different. We will see this in detail with the example now. Now, before I go and show the example, let me show you the terminology, how you need to understand comparing again both the systems. You have again the legal entity. The legal entity in SAP HR, we call it as a company code. And again you have a business unit. It's nothing but your organizational unit, object O, object type O. And you also have in input I1, there is a field called business area where most of the people doesn't touch it. And it is being defined by the FI consultant. What exactly the business area? The business area, it is something like it defines a representation of your business, a line of business. Whether that particular line of business is all about a pharmaceutical, it's all about manufacturing, it's all about service sector. That is, we call it as a business unit. Is it manufacturing? Is it services? Is it mobile? Whatever it is. That we will call, but most of the time we don't define it the business area. The business area is something is a line of businesses your company is having, like consultancy, or like what we call manufacturing, or something like whatever it may be. It's nothing but line of business. Next, you have a division, that also we call it as an organization unit, object type work. A department is also an organization unit, that we call it as an object type work. And location, you have a personal area and personal sub area. Cost center, we also have a cost center, the object type K, which comes, and it will be defined by the FI consultant. But this also is one of the object type you have as a building block in organizational management module. Okay, these are the terminology that we should be familiar with understanding with the other on-premises system from the cloud employee central system. Now, the legal entity is something like, is sometimes referred to as a company. It contains the definitions of all legal entity that are part of the customer's organization. Business unit is something, kind of part of your legal entity that focus on the business functionality, like manufacturing, sales, marketing, whatever it may be, the same examples we have explained now. And now you have a division, simply a division of business unit. It is again division of the business unit. It can be used directly as a division of legal entity as well if required. That is what I was just explaining. Such is the flexibility of the employee central. It's so simple, so flexible, and very easy. Okay, now again the divisions are again divided into the one or more department. That is what I was telling. A division can have a department, and department can have one more department, like that. A location, the name itself is represents the physical location. It is something like defined or identified the employee's location, where the employee is working, in which location. And the cost center is all about the unit that accounts of the business costs, such as an ERP and other HRIS system. Okay, these are something very, very important. And now let me explain about a simple example of the structure that we have seen till now. Okay, a manufacturing company has three business units called plastics, woods, and metals. We can see that manufacturing limited, plastics, metals, and woods. The plastics, the business unit is having three divisions associated to that particular plastics, like R&D, manufacturing, and distribution. And while the metals business unit also have two divisions associated to it. What are those? Alloys and metal works. And the woods business unit also have a two divisions associated, that is called carpentry and timber. So this is a kind of example that you can very clearly connect to that and understand it how simple it is. So this is very good example that you can take how a organization structure can be configured and defined as per the client requirement. But the employees, and it doesn't require that you have to follow always the same structure. It depends upon how flexible your business requirement and your client structure, and even the success factors employee central supports that. Okay. Now we have seen till now about the organization structure, which is a part of foundational object. Now let us concentrate on pay structures, that is also part of foundational object. In the pay structures you have again two objects, job classification and job function. A job function is something which defines about the functionality of the job that an employee is doing. And the job classification, a job classification is all about again like administration, something like finance, controlling, job classifications. Under job classification you have a job function. Okay, that we will see there in detail very clearly. Now let me explain about a legal entity. See, when you're trying to define a legal entity for any country, every country have its CSF fields. That is nothing but country specific fields. Now if you just have a glance at on this particular screenshot, you know, you here this particular USA is having a country specific fields which are not same for any other country. So you also have to concentrate on all those. What are the country specific fields? This particular country legal entity should be configured with all those. Like here you have a Federal Reserve Bank ID, SSN number, employee company equal employment opportunity company code, employee ID, SSN number, whatever you have to, you know, maintain and configure and understand what are the country specific fields. So even that also you can configure and assign to the legal entity. It's possible. Next, let me explain about another foundation object. Okay, as a building block of organization structure is a location group. The multiple location groups can be grouped together as one location group. For example, why we need to group there as a location group? It is very generally used for equal employment opportunity. That means in USA, you'll be having a location group like, maybe North America, South America, whatever it is. For North America, people are having some other different type of payment, and these people, other people are having a different type set of payment. So this location group makes that, very simplified for the EVO, okay, configuration. That's through location group. Next, let me explain about GeoZone. The GeoZone is something, all the multiple location groups can be grouped into a GeoZone like Asia Pacific or something Pacific or whatever it may be, Asia or Middle East, something like that. You have to suggest the cost of living in order to specify the cost of living. Now, let me explain another important thing, pay component group. The pay component group is something like, we have in our SAP HCM a concept called wage type. What is the wage type? Here we call it as pay component. And what is a pay component group? The pay component group is nothing but grouping of all the wage types together as one group. That is called pay component group. Okay, so here you are going to multiple pay components can be grouped into one pay component group. The amount of pay component group is equivalent to the pay component that includes. The system automatically performs the annualization. See, for example, I'll tell you, when you're going to configure work for a US payroll, in Infodec 8 you have a field annualization of salary. you know for USA it is very much mandatory that you need to configure that field, but most of the time we don't touch it, but it is very, very important. In US, most of the employees first consider what exactly the total annualization of the salary and what kind of benefits, what kind of health benefits and all the things that they are getting. That's most of the US employees concentrate on. Here also we have in order to specify, and this pay component group also can be defined at different examples. The pay components can be positive pay component groups, negative pay component groups. Sometimes you can define the pay component group like annualized on yearly based salary. You can define it. Here positive pay component, something, there will be some wage type that which occur every pay period. Every pay period, you have to pay something like, basic pay, HRA, car allowances, house allowances. These are the positive pay components which occurs in every pay period for every employee. Okay, so these are recurring every pay period, so that you can group it as a one positive pay component group. Suppose you have a negative pay component deductions, that also can group it as a one pay component group. Something, it depends upon how you want to consider and how do you want to define it and make use of all this. So what we have seen till now is all we have seen the foundational object, org structure, job structure, and pay structures. Now let us concentrate on foundational objects is over. Now let us concentrate on person object. The person objects is something, is completely employee specific. It's not about organization. It's something like in SAP HR we have inputs like 2, input 6, input 105, 185. These are the input that we call here the person objects, which when we compare with the on-premises system from cloud. Here we have something like personal information, global information, geographical information, address information, email, phone, social account number, and in the direct deposit information, something like product 9, bank details, national ID information, emergency contact information. If you just observe and have a glance on it, you will be able to connect with the on-premise system like in product 2, in product 6, in product 9, in product 105, in product 185. These are something like a person objects which are specific for employee. And a person objects can be, you will be getting these things directly from your people profile. Now currently we call it as, earlier we used to call it as a public profile. And you have a personal information portlet, and there you will be able to see all these things in the personal information portlet. This is the personal information for first name, last name, gender, married, and rest other things. Now, let me explain here with the two examples for the address information. This is employee specific, and you specify the address information with the country specific fields, CSF fields. Here I am just showing here two screenshots which are specific for your US country address format and China address format. And you can see here city, state, zip code, address 1, address 2, address 3, country. But here when you look at the address information for China, like you have only city, district and postal code, and you don't have again anything like zip. Some it is different concept, and again you have like address 2, address 3, and something you need to understand the requirement, what are the country specific fields we have, and based on that you have to work on it and develop the requirement. Now let me explain about the contact information. In the contact information portal, you can store your own information, which is something your email ID, whether it is a business email or whether it's a personal, whether it's a home, even the phone number as well. You have any extension numbers, you want to put your own business numbers or your personal phone number, something like the social communication networks like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. So even that also your own IDs you can mention it, so that when a person is going to able to view your own profile as a proxy or whatever it is, so that you will be able to also connect with your other networks as well, so that it is easy to communicate with users very easily. So that's so flexible your employee center is all about. Now we have seen about person objects, foundational objects in depth. Now let us talk about employment objects. The employment objects are something, a job related information of a person with regarding the compensation information and the hire dates. Okay, and you see here the employment details, job information, position information, like time off, etc. are the objects comes under the employment objects. So we will be concentrating on all these again. And where you will be able to find all these things here in the employment information from the people profile, and you can see in the job information portlet, job information, employment details, and the organization information. So these are all nothing but your employee centered architecture. And rest of other things you see with regard to hiring, transactions, absence management, position management, okay, onboarding, HR transactions. At present, the global payroll supports not 22, it's almost 30 countries at present. Okay, then once you complete all these configurations like person objects and employment objects, foundation objects, still we left generic objects that comes in the metadata framework, then we will see that and separately. That is also a different set of module that we will be concentrating on very in depth. Now once you have done configuring all this, then you will go for hiring an employees. Either you can go for importing employees, either you can go manually for individual employees. Okay, you can go and hire and do all the things by mentioning all the events and event reasons, and with a everyone specific data that entering when your hiring is taking place for all the configurations you are doing. When you go for hiring an employee, you can see, you can look at the screenshot. You have the four tabs that you see that you need to follow. These four tabs are nothing but comprises of all the four objects like person objects, employment objects, foundational objects, and even what we call generic objects. The identity person information is a person object, job information is about foundational object, compensation information is all about employment objects. And in whichever the object that in these three you want to create a metadata framework objects, custom objects, you can insert and you can create as per the client requirement directly within your instance system itself. It doesn't require any kind of coding. So that also you will enjoy. We will see it very clearly in depth. So till now we have seen about the architecture of your employee central, and it's all about the found objects. And based on this particular class and the presentation we have given, we will be starting concentrating on configurations. How to configure all these as per the client requirement. We'll take one example of the particular company, and based on that we will do these concepts clearly creating. So if you have any doubts till now, you can ask me now before we go for a configurations. Come on. Come on, madam. Mozi and Suraj, both of you are there. Both of you are there. Madam Mozi.
I think once we begin the configuration, it'll be clear.
Yeah.
Right now, I got a basic understanding. I think so. Once we start physically doing it, it's gonna come
very good,
more easy.
So, did you understand the presentation and the class that is given by me here? Is it clear at least that?
Yeah, it is.
Are you able to reconnect with your SAP HR knowledge that you have, Madam Mozi?
Oh, yeah, a little.
Very little, okay.
Yeah.
Good. So these are the things that we will be concentrating on. The things that we will be doing all these things very clearly. So what I will do is in the next class we will start configuring these interesting things, and you will enjoy it. And it is not like as the time you spend on SAP HR. It's very simple, and the work of configuration of all this very simple. Even the metadata framework is also something within a short time, within a half an hour, 1 hour, within 15 minutes you can configure your own customer requirement through for generic objects and custom objects. It's very simple, but thing is that you must understand the concepts well. Then it becomes so easy when we go for a configuration. That is why I have given this instead of directly going for configuration, so that you will have a very clear idea what exactly you are trying to learn. So that is the main intention of the presentation here. I hope that you all understood what exactly the employee central architecture is all about. Configurations of the same class in the coming class, and you will see very easy and very interesting. And till then, again I request you, please kindly go through this same video, so that you will be so much connected with your classes, even that which you people have gone through even from SAP HR. So it is easy even to connect how simple it is and all. Okay, so we'll see in the next class. Please kindly go to the video and get ready. We'll do the configurations. Thank you so much for both of you.